Hi folks, and welcome back to the channel, and today we're popping over to Cuba and we're going to be making Cubano bread or Pan Cubano. Well, I think that's how you say it. Nevertheless, and if you like this type of content, please subscribe and also please share. Anyway, we'll get right on with the video. Now, before we start the recipe, the most important thing to remember is temperature. Now, when you're making a sourdough bread or making any type of bread, you really want room temperature, and that is around about 20 Celsius. Also, another thing that make sure you've got is active sourdough. From the outset, I would turn around to you and say the best idea is to take your water, put in your starter and give it a stir round. And when the sourdough starter floats on the top of the water, you know you're in business. Don't even attempt this recipe without the sourdough floating on the water. And for your recipe, you want 500 grams of strong baker's flour, 300 grams of water, 100 grams of active sourdough. Make sure this is floating. 15 grams of sea salt, 15 grams of caster sugar, 70 grams of lard, or you can use white shortening. First, we're going to put the flour into the machine, and now we're going to add in our sourdough and our water. And we'll start it. Now, the dough wants to be mixing for around about 10 to 12 minutes. Around that amount. Now, if you want to do the type of sourdough that you need to fold it, then half the mix, take it out of the machine, put it into your bucket or bowl, and from there onwards, you're going to then be mixing it basically by folding it. In this particular recipe, all I'm going to be doing is mixing it. There is no folding necessary. Now, I always mix my sourdough on first speed. Now, if you want to knock it onto second speed, go for it. You can do this, but just cut down the time. Now, if I'm doing something a bit more continental than just sourdough, if I'm doing like a pizza or some type of roll, and I really want to get that woof into it, then I'll knock it onto second speed, especially for ciabatta. Right, the first part of the dough's ready. What we'll do is have a look, see what the consistency is like, and then add our salting. Yeah, that's fine. All we're going to do is add in our salt. And commence the mixing. And now we're going to be adding in our lard. Now we're going to mix this so it just clears. Right, the dough's ready. And now we need to put it into a plastic container. Do check to make sure it's got a nice window, because it is important that dough is actually mixed really, really well. There's your sourdough in your pot. All we're going to be doing now is leaving this to prove up. So we're going to want to come up to about this height in the bowl, and then we can start to use it. Put the lid on. So we'll see in around about 6 hours time. And now the dough's ready. We'll put it onto the table and we'll start scaling off 500 grams. We're now going to mould these up, and we're going to make them around about 8 to 9 inches long. So we'll just pull them out a little bit. Fold them over, and then just roll them over, like that. And we sort of want to get them to be about 9 inches long. Well, that's probably about 6. Do the same again, just fold that one over and that one, push him down and roll him up. make sure the seam is across the top. This dough could have done with a bit softer really, but never mind. I'm going to roll it out a little bit more. Once again, make sure you keep your seam up. And sort of pull them out a bit. Now we want our tray. You want to sprinkle it with flour. This isn't the tray you're going to be baking on. And over the top of that you can put some rice cones. Now you want to keep your seam upwards and just place them onto the tray. Keep the seam upwards and place it onto the tray. Best temperature for proving your sourdough is around about 25 Celsius. Now we're going to be proving for around about, give or take, 3 to 4 hours. It can take longer. A rule of thumb is if you work on 5 hours, you're going to be somewhere about. Now cover your bread up. We're now going to transfer these over onto a baking tray. And on the baking tray I've got some baking parchment or baking silicone. And all we're going to do is pick these up and turn them over like that. Now these are probably going to need around about another half an hour of proving, so we'll cover them back up. It's now time to put your oven on. Your oven temperature wants to be about 220 Celsius. Bread's ready. All we need to do is now put a line straight down the middle. As easy as this. And we'll get them into the oven. Now we're going to be baking for around about 25 to 30 minutes. This is all depending on your oven. Halfway through, we're going to be turning the bread round so it bakes the other half of the bread, because if your oven is like my oven, it's got a mind of its own. Well, the bread's ready. Now we're going to take it straight out and cool it down. And this is your Cubano bread. That looks a lovely loaf of bread. It's as simple as that. Well, there you go, guys. Wasn't that easy? That bread was absolutely lush. That is absolutely spot on, just how I expected to. And earlier in the day, I did chop one up and taste it. Oh, and it was to die for. Absolutely beautiful. Now, if you want more recipes like this, please subscribe and please share. And we'll see you again very shortly in the Crazy Baker kitchen on the Crazy Baker channel. Laters! This is the Crazy Baker channel. Baking. Lifestyle. Recipes. Reviews. I am the Crazy Baker. Please subscribe and please share. Laters!